Mike, with the homeless strategy, what role does Citizen Advice Bureau play this?
Well, since 2003, Thurrock CAB has provided a housing advice service that was commissioned by the council. It was set up originally in response to the Homelessness Act 2003, which required local authorities, once they'd established that they had no statutory duty to a potentially homeless person, to provide them with accommodation. They were required by law to then provide independent advice to that person on how they could access housing or seek to relieve their situation. So at that time, the then head of housing put this out to tender. We won the tender, and it was a very innovative process, and it was a good partnership arrangement. Since that time, when it came to renew the housing strategy, the council or the officers involved thought that they would bring the service in-house, to which we had a number of objections, and this has culminated where we've put a lot of work into responding to their strategy, and with the current administration and current officers, we've come to an agreement whereby we can move forward, and independent housing advice should still play a part in the provision of housing services.
But how would you describe the relationship between the council and yourselves in respect to this?
Well, previously the relationship has been difficult because, you know, they were seeking to completely take that amount of funding away from us and to take the service in-house, which we think is a retrograde step for vulnerable people, because ourselves and many of the other voluntary agencies in the borough believe that there's a vital role that independent housing advice plays, and of course our role isn't just about homelessness prevention, and I think this is where the message has been mixed up, in that the homelessness strategy is purely about homelessness prevention and a homelessness prevention team working out of the civic offices. Our remit under the original tender is much broader than that, and we provide housing advice, specialist casework that's independently and externally audited for its quality across all aspects of housing. So whether you're an owner-occupier, private renter, a council tenant, threatened with homelessness, any of those issues we will deal with. So we think that's a better service to provide, because if you look at what is being proposed, is that someone may present to the civic offices, and only at the civic offices, as potentially homeless. So it might be a single person with children who's come home. Landlords put a letter through the door saying, I want you out by next week because my sister's come back from America and I want her to move in. So where do they go with that? They have to get themselves from wherever they are in the borough into the civic offices and say, you know, I think I'm going to be homeless next week. If they have a duty under the Homelessness Act, they will carry out a procedure to see whether or not they have to accommodate them. If they haven't got a duty, a statutory duty, then they must provide them with independent advice. Now, under this scenario, it would just be go to the desk next door and speak to the next officer. So we're saying, well, currently what's in place is that they would be referred to us, and we would look at their whole situation. We'd say, well, that's probably an illegal eviction. We will write the letters, we will warn the landlord, you know, we'll check their benefits, we'll make sure that they're receiving any advice they need, whether it's housing, debt, legal, etc. So we think that's a better, more rounded service, as opposed to just sending them to the next desk. And also, and you know, and this is part of our remit as well, is we will challenge whether the original decision was right or wrong. We don't think that will happen within the council system.
Looking at the report though, homelessness, if I'm right, it seems to be going down in Thurrock. That must be a good thing.
That's a very good thing, and I think that has been, you know, a lot of the work that both the council and ourselves have been doing over the years. You know, there is a lot more access to advice, there's a lot more work goes on to help people stay in their home where possible, and from our part we do that by taking on the case, as my caseworkers do, and negotiating with landlords, looking at all the options. So, you know, all these things are never black and white, obviously, but we do feel that the much wider access to advice that we offer is a better way forward.